Hey everybody, it's Peter, and this is our second video in the big truck segment. So we've been granted permission here to film at Peterbilt Atlantic. They have 8 dealers in 5 provinces. They are the Peterbilt place out east in Canada, and they've given me complete access into their entire vehicle lineup to go through and kind of plain language talk about these trucks. So if you missed my very first video, we did the 579 or model 579 with the Ultraloft. So it had the big, huge, tall cab. It was a highway truck. We talked all about aerodynamics and efficiency, and this one is the model 589, but this one is set up for not so much aerodynamics, for an entirely different thing. It's kind of bad. I'm not sure if I can say that. I didn't ask them that, but it's amazing. It's got all kinds of technology. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to go through this in plain language, some of the stuff, and talk about how cool these things are, because I'm excited about it. So if you ever want to drop by Peterbilt Atlantic, the one I'm filming at is the Hanwell location, which I like to call the Fredericton location. Swing by, check them out. They've got merch for you to get. Even if you're not a trucker, you can get Peterbilt shirts and all that kind of stuff. Fun stuff. Anyways, let's get going with this review. So when you think of a transport truck or a tractor trailer or whatever you want to call it, this is kind of what you think about. This is more the traditional Peterbilt. This is cool because it's got that retro, classic, but still modern look. This is a 2025 model, and a lot of times with trucks, they're different than cars. They don't remake the outside every 3 to 5 years kind of thing. They just run with what works, and they keep tweaking and tweaking and tweaking. So this truck, unlike the last one we talked about, and the last one we talked about, that 579 Ultraloft model, that, we'll link that in the description if you missed the first episode of this. But the last one we talked about all the aerodynamics, the efficiency, the design of it that made it really, really good on the highway. It's a true highway truck. This one would be more used for things like logging, mining, and there's a lot of logging going on right around here. So we're going to talk about some advantages that I can really see, because I've been on some of the roads that these things have been on, and I was on an ATV, a dirt bike, and a Jeep, and I think on my ATV I ran into one of these trucks coming down a road that I thought this truck had no business being on. But it's got cool technologies. If you think your Jeep 4x4 is cool, you're going to love this. So let's get going when talking about some of the details on this that are a little bit different. So the most obvious difference, of course, like we talked about, is this classic look. But with this classic look on this particular model, you have massive tires. We're going to take a look at them in a second. We're also showing you this view because this is called a tri-drive. Now, it's not just tri-axle, it's tri-drive, which means there's 3 axles, they all receive drive. We're going to talk about that as we get down there. But just taking a look at here, you can see that big classic square front end. You can fit a huge engine in here. It's got about 650 horsepower, but the horsepower does not matter. It's all about torque, and it's got massive, massive amounts of torque. Now, in another video, somebody said, hey, you got to dig into the engine more. Absolutely. We're going to do that in future videos. This is still just an overview. A couple things that we don't have on the other one, that we have on this one that we don't have on the other one. Remember the other one had the LED headlights, and I talked about how those LED headlights, they're not great in the winter unless they have a heating element, and they did have a heating element. Well, this one here, you got an entire different, oh, there's a spider web there, that's fun. An entirely separate headlight segment, and of course these ones don't need to be heated because they're the halogen with a projector beam headlight. So that projector beam is going to get that nice sharp beam. Fully modern headlights here just happen to not be LED. Down here on the other model we talked about, you goes right down, like almost on the ground, with a plastic and more rubbery kind of feeling front guard there. This one, pure steel. Same thing with the grill, really pure steel, though there's some things about the grills even that I apparently have to learn about. I haven't even asked what those are, but there's technology in there as well. The square area not only gives it that classic look, it gives you the room to both work on and fit a large engine in there, so that's part of the reason that is. And then you get the classic look. Look up top there. I don't know if you can see it from your shot there. In fact, I'm going to walk over the camera, check out the horns there. Unlike the last model, which had the hidden horns, you've got massive horns up here, and yeah, I want to hit the horn too. But they're just really cool looking. So you've got that sun visor there, in case you didn't know what that was, that chrome sun visor. Again, all classic looking stuff. One thing I want to point out though, is they don't forego aerodynamics with this. There are pieces that are smoothed out. The hood comes a little bit narrower on the front there. The windshield, although it looks like it's flat, it's quite curved around, so it has quite an angle to curve to it. So side to side is where that wind moves. So there are still some aerodynamics here, but this thing is an off-road beast. So let's talk about what it's got and what its use case is and why it's special. So we talked about these Peterbilt trucks really being kind of like the trucks, the sort of like you know, basically high-end trucks that people really want. Now, these are equipped with Michelin tires, and they basically equip all their trucks here with Michelin tires. But unlike the last Michelin tires that we looked at in the previous video, where everything was smooth, in fact, even the tread was very smooth. The tread like those were, you know, very straight tread, kind of reminded me of a super sport motorcycle. I do a lot of motorcycles on this channel as well. Super sport motorcycle has mostly rubber, not a lot of tread, and that works fine for the front wheels of a highway going unit. This thing has a lot of big tread blocks. Kind of looks like my Jeep Wrangler Rubicon's KO2s used to look. So they've got huge tread blocks. And then the general size of these trucks as well, or tires, 425, 65, 22 and a half. So this is 22 and a half inches across there. It's 425 millimeters across here on the tread. And then 65% of that tire, 65% of that width is also in this area. So what that means is these are off-road capable tires in massive form. So it's kind of like having a Jeep tire, overblown, heavier duty, kind of crazy. And then of course the wheels are aluminum. I'm gonna zoom real quick into them because they do some fun stuff with them here. Let me just show you that. So big, massive, intimidating tires also deserve some lug nut covers that are big and massive as well. These are plastic, and you can get them here at the Peterbilt and equip your truck like that. And it just kind of fits with this. It wouldn't fit with that highway going truck, but it really fits here. Again, those aluminum wheels make it a little bit lighter. The rotational mass is a little bit lighter. That can help with efficiency as well. So it's not only about off-road ability, but it's a little bit of efficiency built in here as well. Let's keep moving back and show you a couple other really cool features. So the other day we talked about those highway specific you know, wheel openings, highway specific everything, where it was really tight and aerodynamic. Here, less aerodynamics, but we also showed you how those rubber flaps go down to just a couple inches from the ground. In fact, I stuck my toe in, and where my shoelaces were tied, that's how much ground clearance I have. Well, I got a little more ground clearance here. Again, if you're using this on a logging road, if you've ever been down a logging road, it's not something you can take down your regular Toyota Camry or something like that. You've got to go, like I said, I've been on them in a Jeep, I've been on them in my ATV, been on my dirt bike. I haven't been on any other vehicle on those kinds of roads, but this one has to go down that, and it has to go down that loaded. So one of the things you're going to find with those roads is, hey, different weather conditions can wash out pieces and parts of them. The one near my house goes right down to the river, the St. John River here in Fredericton, and it comes right back up. So the trucks have to go with their empty trucks all the way up this winding, narrow, single lane road that can get washed out at times, and then they also have to come down when they're loaded. So sometimes you're dropping into ruts and other things, and this thing's gonna need the ground clearance to get there, and you have that. So we're gonna bring you in a little closer now, other than some design details here with the cool looking chrome and stuff like that. We're gonna bring you in a little closer to show you this as well. Remember the last truck, everything was aerodynamic. This one is all about function, and there's some function right here in the steps as well. So taking a look at the steps here into the passenger side of the truck, it's the same thing on the driver's side, but what you have here is actually a little bit of almost sharp edges here. And again, if you've got muddy boots and you're getting off of, like, you know, dirty areas, you want to be able to clear that mud before you get in the truck. And these are super solid, but they also have that tread that can really rub off the mud and dirt off your boots. You could stomp on those. Of course, they would work for snow as well, but certainly good for the mud. So while they look cool and retro and they have this great chrome shine to them, they're also very practical. So if you thought the front tires were big, these ones, again, the wheels are even taller, 24 and a half inches, mud and snow rated tires. So that's the kind of thing, again, you see on those off-road pickup trucks, off-road Jeeps, the real thick, high lugs. Now you can't see the lugs because they have these on them. I actually like these. When you consider that this is going to come off a gravel road or a dirt road, picking up stones, that kind of thing. I'm a motorcyclist, so if you ever have a truck shooting off stones that can break your window, those hurt if they hit you. So having these kind of covered, we didn't have that on the highway truck yesterday, but we do have them here. Just kind of a nice thing. I think that's an option or accessory on this truck. I really don't know yet. We'll find that out. But what's cool here is not just the tires or the covers. What's cool is the axle and the strength here. So you've got 23,000 pound axle, 23,000 pound axle, 23,000 pound axle for 69,000 pounds of axle plus 20,000 in the front. This thing is super, super heavy duty, like incredibly heavy duty. And what you have is something that can carry a lot of weight. But we're gonna show you inside some switches and controls. And if you have lockers in your pickup truck or lockers in your Jeep Wrangler or something like that, or Bronco, this thing has the same idea. So you have sort of full off-road capability. And if you think a 4x4 makes a big difference with 4 tires having traction, imagine putting 12 tires of traction to the ground with great big lugs. This thing has way more traction than you would assume. And it's all tied to a manual transmission, which we're going to talk about when we get inside, because a manual transmission actually makes a big difference compared to an automatic for this use case. Now, I also want to talk about the fifth wheel here. I thought it was called the hitch, it's the fifth wheel, just like a fifth wheel in the RV world. So we're gonna talk about that in a second as we come a little bit closer. So I want to be clear, I am by no means an expert on these things, but the amazing people here at Peterbilt Atlantic have been teaching me, and for the next year I'm going to be learning about these things. So again, that's the fifth wheel. What I never realized is there's a variability here. You can move that along the track there and lock it into place, and you're going to have more and less space to move that on various trucks. So what that does is that, yes, it can adapt to different trailers, but can also adapt to placing the weight where you want it to balance out the weight. If you want to move some of the weight to the front axle, you can do that. Again, that's a 20,000 pound front axle that really doesn't have any trailer weight on it, but the way these things are all set up, by moving it around, you can place weight where you want it on the axle, and there's information in the dash to tell you what kind of weight is back here, which is super, super cool. So we're gonna head in the cab in a second and take a look in there and talk about some of the cool stuff in there, but I talked about the traction this thing can have to climb up hills and to, you know, go down low traction areas. We should also talk about brakes, and we're gonna talk about brakes in the future, but have you ever wondered why a truck uses air brakes? Well, there's a number of reasons, but one of the cool reasons that I think is, or that what I find interesting, is if you ever took your car or your motorcycle or something like that and cut a brake line, you would have no brakes. Of course, that would be a huge problem with a truck like this. One of the benefits with air brakes is if you ever were to cut a line, its default position is to lock those brakes on. So when you think about the weight that this thing can carry, intense, crazy weight, and you might be coming down a steep dirt road, if you ever have a brake line that was cut or damaged or that kind of thing, when an airline loses the pressure, its default position is closed, and that makes this safer to, you know, if you were to lose a brake line, it locks those wheels, it slows it down, keeps everything under control. So just one cool little feature hinting at future videos we're gonna do when we talk about the braking systems, transmissions, engines, and everything else in future videos. So if that's interesting, make sure you stay tuned, make sure you get subscribed. Let's head inside. All right, so we're sitting inside this thing right now, and a lot of it is similar to what we showed you yesterday, but there are some differences, so we'll show you that in a second here. But I want to show you seating position because the seats are actually a little bit different as well. Yesterday we had armrests, for instance, that you slide them down, you had the little dials on the bottom. These ones go too far down, which allows you to kind of recline the seat back a little bit, and then they have little clicking. I don't know if you'll hear it because I'm wearing the mic, but click, 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 click. So they lock in place. So again, you can lean it forward, you can lean it back, but the point of this is it's a very comfortable seating position. We didn't show you yesterday, but the steering wheel here, oops, very loud there, is tilt and telescopic, and you can bring it up or down and telescope. So again, all of this is standard in a, you know, modern car, but you have it here that to me just makes it really nice. Again, control is a big deal. We're gonna show you the view out front. You see definitely some more hood on this than you did on that aerodynamic model, but again, a cool position here. One of the things I want to talk about is this one has a manual transmission. So a manual transmission is really, in my opinion, crucially important in this style of truck over an automatic. So if you think about your automatic car, if you come up to a light and there's a hill right in front of you, a really steep hill, well, you're just going to hit the gas and it'll figure out what gear it needs to be in. On this thing, you don't always start in first gear, and it's like if you ever rode a bicycle and you didn't get in the right gear before you hit that hill, and all of a sudden that hill got really, really stiff. It's a lot like that in a truck like this where you're carrying huge weight behind you. So what this allows you to do is put it in the gear you want to be in beforehand, and then use the clutch, use the gears to go up. Now this one I believe is 18 speeds. The pattern on this is like looks like a regular 5-speed transmission with reverse up in front of you. So it is different than that. There's multiple gears, and we're going to have an entirely different video on how the manual transmissions on these work, but it's just the regular 5-speed pattern that you would have in a car is how it looks to shift. It's got a regular clutch pedal. So again, we'll talk about that in a future video, but manual transmission is still very important in the trucking industry. Let's take a look at the dash now. All right, so I'm not using my Steadicam today, so I'm gonna have to be real steady with the camera, but a couple things I wanna show you. We can look in here, you can see the suspension load on the suspension. Now, I haven't asked a lot of details about the dash yet. We're gonna do a future video about some of the dash here, but you can see how much weight is on your suspension, various things. So we're gonna kind of try to jump back out here to the regular view here. We were filming in wide angle earlier, so it looked a little large there. The last truck we showed you didn't have this navigation system in there. Now you have the option to have a navigation system in the dash here, or you can have a separate one over here, and it shows you a lot of different things. Obviously, it's got your Sirius satellite radio there. It's got the phone, it's got gauges, camera views as well if you have cameras set up on this. And then this is kind of what I wanted to show you earlier. There's a lot of controls here. We're going to show you these in future videos, but one of the things there is the lockers for the different axles there, which is something that I didn't expect a transport truck like this would have, which is pretty cool. My camera or tripod is in the way. We're going to still try to open this up and let it hit my tripod there. This comes out, and that is a nice little table built into the dash, so whether you're eating, whether you have a guest, whatever you want, you got a place to do some work even, just write down your daily work, you can sit in that chair there. That chair is also air assist. We're going to talk about the comfort in this in a second. The chair is air assist. We're going to talk about a few more things. Currently it's in its lowest position. I've raised mine up for the, just while I'm sitting here. I do want to show you the cab back here as well, because it's different than the last one we showed you. The last one I could sort of stick my hands up. This one's only about, I'm about 6 feet tall and I'm close to the ceiling there. So it's just a little over 6 feet tall. The last one had a bed up there. This one does not have the bed up there. So we'll just show you that really briefly. A little bit less depth than the previous video and a little bit less height than the previous video. So we'll show you that right now. So I'm standing in the cab portion right now, and I'm about 6 feet tall, and I've just got my head turned. We'll show you that in a second, but as I cross this line here to the sort of second piece there, now I can stand up fully 6 feet and just above 6 feet. So this here on the previous one was above my head, but you still have the same kind of shelf type here. This one has a nice little pad there. Like I said, if you're strapping down a laptop or something like that, you have a really good plug there. The last one we looked at had a regular plug here with an inverter. This one's just got the 12-volt plug, so you still have your rear diesel-powered heater back here, so you can turn the engine off and stay warm, but you don't have some of the things we had in the highway model that we showed you yesterday. Extra 12-volt ports right there. There is an emergency exit/door over there. There's no windows in this particular model in the back cab here. So the front cab, of course, you can run curtains across. What I would do is just run this curtain across and just the back section here as you're sleeping on this mattress. This mattress also looks a little bit narrower than the last one. So again, variety of sizes there. And of course, you got this seatbelty type apparatus to hold your luggage, hold your gear, and really good bungee cord systems to hold more gear up top there. So again, very small camper-like, quite comfortable, but not the largest cab compared to the Ultraloft. You really see why people would want to go to the Ultraloft for a little bit more space. However, this would be fine for me. Now I believe that, although not a window, is a vent. You can let some fresh air in there as well. Extra little handles here too, if you ever had to, you know, just to kind of help yourself move around, you've got extra things in there. And of course, lighting, speakers, you've got everything you need in here. So flipping the camera around, again, I'm just in the back cab, so the roof does rise up to the bed here. But again, I'm about 6 feet tall, and you see you've got lots of room. As I step into the cab section and stand straight up, this is the height I have. So again, a little different than that highway model, but still quite a bit of room and to move around and that kind of thing. So very roomy and spacious back here, but not as much as the Ultraloft. I really like this view here, just standing behind the seats there and looking out over that hood there. Again, nice commanding view of everything there. You've got a real good view. And like I said, the aerodynamics wise, this windshield is quite curved, more than you would think. So there is more aerodynamics, even though this is a classic sort of style. And you can sort of see it's not a pointed here. There's a little bit of curvature in some of the corners that just add a little bit of aerodynamics, so you still have some efficiency. One other thing I want to show you here as we're just jumping outside again is this is sort of the air seat. So that seat has some compression. It's designed to keep it nice and smooth for the rider. So that's something I would love to see on, you know, the Jeep Wrangler I used to have, which rides a little rough. And then the entire cab is also supported by an air ride along with each suspension piece. So let's see if we can get in here, and yeah, there's the airbags down there for the suspension. So you've got air ride on just about everything, from air ride for strength and for, you know, to keep things the level, the angle that you want, but also for comfort throughout this thing. So they use a lot of air systems. That's another video we're gonna do in the future, is how the air systems all work on a truck like this. I'm still filming wide angle, so a little skewed at the view at the angles here. Let's wrap this up and talk about what we're doing next. So where are we headed next with this, and what do you want to see? That's really what we're going to talk about. So these, of course, the first two videos in this series are really just overviews of what these trucks are. As I move forward, I want to become an expert over the next year on all of these trucks, and the amazing, super knowledgeable people here at Peterbilt Atlantic are going to help me do that. So if you have things that you want to see in a video about these kind of trucks, even if you're a complete newbie to them like I am, tell me the basics you want to see, tell me the more advanced stuff you want to see, the kinds of things you want to see in these videos. Let me know in the comments below, and do me a favor, if you like this video, leave a like for Peterbilt Atlantic that give you the access to these vehicles. We've got a lot more models coming up. There's different types of things. There's even an EV transport truck that I'm gonna have access to, that we'll be able to go through and talk about that. And if you have questions about that, so do I. So we'll talk about all those things coming up and we'll get to know that. So this series is gonna last at least a year, hopefully longer. We're gonna continue to build. We've done twice already this week on these trucks, but really where we go next depends a little bit on you guys. I'm gonna introduce model by model by model in these general overviews, but the specifics that you wanna know is all gonna be driven by you guys. So let me know what you wanna see, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks everybody for watching.